Welcome to the Total Boss Podcast, and I'm your host, Christiano Green, a podcast where we talk about finding fulfillment through self-development, being a leader of your own life, and getting the most out of it as well. Tenacity, originality, talent, authenticity, and being legendary. It's all about living your best life. Hello, all you total bosses out there, and welcome to another episode of the Total Boss Podcast. I am your host, Christiano Green, and I'm a shadow healer and a life coach for gay men. So what I really like to be able to do is help gay men overcome their past and then coach them so that they can have a better future by living in the present as well. So what are we going to be doing this week on the podcast? I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So earlier in the year, I was running weekly webinars, weekly masterclasses for gay men, mostly for gay men who were struggling in dating, struggling in relationships, looking for love, maybe feeling like they don't deserve love. And I was running a webinar every week called I Am Deserving of Finding Love. And it was, like I said, a webinar for gay men on the journey of self-love and also on finding love and having a loving relationship. We got so much great success from the webinar that I decided that this week on the podcast that I was going to share one of the copies of that. So one of the webinars I've recorded, I have a recording that you can watch here and also listen to, so you can get some of the lessons and some of the learnings that I had from the amazing webinar that I ran. And if you guys want me to put on another webinar, reach out to me, send me some messages, and I'll pop something together maybe in the next couple of weeks. So check it out, and I'll be back at the end with something interesting to share with you also for you guys. So check it out. Of course, most of you know me from online, but my name is Christiano Green, and I am a relationship coach, and I help gay men to find long-lasting, loving relationships in their life. And I've been helping gay men, hundreds of them over the last few years, to find relationships. And that comes from no matter where you are in your life, no matter your background of relationships. I've helped people who've come in and they spent 20, 30 years, never having a partner at all. And then boom, they come in, they follow the principles, and within a few months, they find the relationship. I've helped people who've had multiple relationships in the past, maybe they have so much success. And I've helped who have we got there? We need to mute people. Can you mute people and sort people out in the background? Now my assistant Anel's also here to help in the background to make sure that I can be focused with you guys. So welcome, Anel, and thank you for being here as well. But yeah, so we're here to talk about how I can help you and support you in finding a relationship, in finding love, because I know from my experience personally, but from helping so many gay men, that finding love as a gay man can be really difficult. Feeling like you fit into our community can be difficult. Feeling like there's someone out there for you can be difficult. And I went through all of those, struggles myself. And so we're going to cover a lot today. We've got about 90 minutes together. So I'm going to make sure that I really, cover all the points here. If I do move, at a fast pace and you have any questions, type them in the chat screen, because I'd love to make sure that I cover it if I'm not making sense at all. Usually I make a lot of sense, but at some point, might fly over someone's head. That's totally okay. But feel free to share that in the chat screen so that I can support you in that space. There will also be some time at the end to ensure that, if you've got questions as well, that, I can make sure that I answer those questions for you also there. So let me quickly jump in and talk about what are the intentions that I have for today. So intention one is to help show you guys how you can find and attract a healthy, happy, passionate, loving relationship. You can add in any other verbiage that you like to make sure that sounds right, but it's to help you guys as gay men find relationships that are going to support you and your growth in life as well. And of course, on that journey, you're going to need to do some things. So, one of those things is to get out there and go dating. Some of us may be online on the apps or be out on the dating world, and we feel like, I'm just not good at this. Like every person I attract is definitely not someone that I want to date, or, I'm just not attracting people. So how do we become masters of the dating world? That's something that we need to do if we want to, like I said, find relationships as well. Of course, I want to help you guys to feel like you're part of a community So I really want to connect you to a supportive group of gay men who are also on the same path as you. They're doing what you're doing, and they're out there looking for a relationship, looking for love. So finding people around you that are going to support you as well on that journey. Of course, like I said, I am a relationship coach, and I do this, this is my business as well. So I do come and run these webinars to help see those people who are really wanting to take that next level, right? Some of you guys are going to come here, you're going to take the information, and then maybe you'll go away, and some of you will do something about it, and a lot of you won't. That's just from my experience. But of course, there are going to be some of you who want to put their hand up and say, I need some extra help and support. So of course, I'm looking for those kinds of people as well to become my ideal client so I can support you and continue that streak of helping, hundreds of gay men to find long-lasting love. And throughout the day, of course, I want to make it fun and informative. And I want to make sure that I offer you something available at the end. So stick around to the end so that I can make sure that there's something there for you and that you have a path forward so that you leave here knowing what is HP's next step? What is Nicholas's next step? What is Andre's next step? What is Shavinta's next step, right? Because it's important to find out what is next after today, right? So let me jump in and quickly share with you what are some of the, steps to success that people take, when they work with me. So of course, today we're at step number 1, which is running a relationship masterclass, a webinar, something like that, right? I run these currently on a weekly basis, and I have a range of gay men from all over the world who come here looking for support, right? They're understanding, they're curious, they want to figure out, hey, maybe how can I figure out what's my next step, right? So, of course, down the track, I have other things available for people. So, usually what people take after this is they come and join my online program. It's an online program, which is, created with, 70, 80 plus hours of online content, which you can view at your own pace. And of course, there's, different modules that you can go through that's going to help you, especially in the area of attracting love and finding relationships as well. And then for those people who are more serious and taking that extra step, I have, full day immersive relationship summits where people come for a full 8, 9 hours, and we just go deep into changing some of the beliefs that we have and also building up our own confidence and getting to that next level so that we can really, really create, what kind of relationship that we want and then bring that into our life. I've had many clients who've gone in there who've literally left there within a few weeks, have found the partner they were looking for because they got so clear on what they were wanting as well. And then for those people who are really serious about it, I've got, 6-month group programs and really kind of like, intensive one-on-one work that helps people to really go there in such a quick, fast paced time as well. So those are the real steps to success that many people go on when they come and find me as well. When we jump in and talk about kind of like what are some of the main modules in the online program, these are kind of basic 4 modules that you're going to find in there. There's one about understanding you, which is really, getting to the place of really knowing who I am on a deeper level as well. Then of course that's important because when we're really looking for someone, we want to be at our best when we attract someone, because if we're not in a great place, we're not going to attract someone who's probably at their best as well. So usually what we want to do is work out, is there something that I'm not happy with or depressed about or anxious about? What can I resolve there so I can attract from a good place? Then the next part is all about understanding love and relationships and dating, especially as gay men, because of course we know that it is different. Men dating men is different to men dating women. It's just a fact. I mean, I know I haven't dated a woman, but I know from all the research I've done, there's a lot of differences, right? So it's all about that for us as gay men. And then, the next section is all about us as gay men, understanding life, about being gay and making sure that we get to a place of full acceptance in all the different areas of being a gay man, because it can be tough out there for so many of us as well. And then the final module is just about really understanding life. So how do I become a master in different areas of my life? And that's going to help me to cultivate a happier, healthier, more passionate and loving relationship as well. So those are the main things that, are covered in the online program as well. So let's kind of jump in and discuss what are the plans for today. So I'm going to jump in with you guys and I am going to talk about my story of, finding love and relationships. And I'm also going to share with you why I'm an expert in relationship coaching and how I've helped so many people to get exactly what you're looking for, a relationship and love and their partner, even if they came in here never having a relationship in the past, right? I'm going to cover the main reasons why us as gay men will actually be failing in finding those loves. So you've probably been out there trying to find relationships for a long time now. Like I said, you might have been in relationships. I'm going to share with you the main reasons why they fail and some of the common mistakes that we make. And if we work on those things, we can start to see different results as well. And then I'll jump in and talk about what are the 5 foundations that you can incorporate straight away that are going to help you to create a healthy, happy, passionate, loving relationship in your life as well. And then, of course, like I said, there's going to be a time for you to ask questions. And of course, I'll be able to share, a great opportunity for everyone who's here today as well. So let me jump in and really just talk about why you're here today. Because again, we've got, about 8 to 10 people that are on live here. There's going to be more listening to the replay, right? So everyone comes here, of course, with a big goal of probably wanting a relationship, right? But I'd be curious to go a little bit deeper and go, what is it that you really are looking to get from this webinar? Is there something that you were like, if I knew that one thing, that would be helpful? Because it's important as we go throughout the webinar that if you are clear on what it is that you're looking for from today, that we can ensure that you're getting that result as well. And when we talk about, that deeper reason as to why you're here, which, as we know, like I said, is to find a relationship, to improve relationships, to enhance relationships, to actually get a partner, right? I'd like you to answer to yourself, and you can put this in the chat screen if you feel called to, how committed are you on a scale of 1 to 10 in actually achieving that goal? How important is it for you in your life with everything that's going on? How important is it for you? Now, often, when I ask this question, a common answer I get is somewhere between 7 and 8 on the commitment level, right? Now, I don't know if that's your number, but again, that's the common number. Oftentimes, when people have it at a 7 or an 8, that's one of the main reasons why they're struggling in actually getting a relationship. Because in life, we always have priorities, right? And if we put a commitment level of 7 or 8 on, say, finding a relationship, but you might say that my work is a 9 or a 10, or my friendships are a 10. Anytime somebody comes up with work or a friend, it goes above and beyond any chance of you going out there and dating and doing those things, right? And maybe you can think of this from your past. Yes, my work will always go ahead of me going on dates, or if a friend asks me out for dinner, yeah, I'm not going on a date because of that, right? It's true. It's true that happens. And I know from myself in the past, that was so common as well. I always put everything else above it, but then I would be like, why haven't I got this thing in my life? Because I wasn't as committed to getting it as you might want to be. So just have you think about that if that's one of your numbers as well for up today. So, of course, like I said, we've all come from different backgrounds of relationships. And some of you are going to be people who, like I said, never had a relationship before. And that might be the honest truth. Really, for me, before I found my partner, that was where I was at. I would never really have anything more than just a couple of months, right? So you might be someone who's also only ever been in short-term relationships. Maybe it's a couple of months, maybe it's never taken itself to, the next level and gotten anywhere serious. And you're just wondering, are all these men, effed up, or is there something wrong with me? Because again, that was something that I would always ask myself. You might be in one of those positions as well. And you might also be someone who's had long-term relationships in the past. Maybe on one end, they've been toxic because a lot of times, a lot of relationships with gay men early on in their life become toxic, especially depending on the level of experience that we've had within our own experience of coming out with our families, with our friendships, etc. It might have been that way, right? And again, depending on where you met, you might have met people out in the club and you might be into alcohol and drugs. There can be a level of toxicity that's come into it. So maybe you've had a long-term relationship in the past, but you've dated someone and it's been toxic. And maybe there's some walls up or fears about getting into a new relationship because, again, you don't want to repeat that same pattern in the past. Because oftentimes, someone who's been in a toxic relationship is about 4 times more likely to get into another toxic relationship than just someone who's never had a toxic relationship before. Those are some of the numbers, right? Because they get used to that kind of love, and then there's parts of it that they get addicted to, right? So there's some certain things that happen there as well. And then finally, you might have just been in a really long-term relationship, but you guys just grew apart, and then now you're at a place where like, hey, I need to start over again. Like this didn't work out. And maybe you have yet to move fully on from that relationship, or maybe it's just, you haven't dated for such a long time and you don't really know what to do. Those are usually the people that come here. But again, depending on where your background is, you could be outside of those boxes, and it's totally okay. Because like I said, I've helped hundreds of gay men from all different backgrounds all over the world. So know that you're in the right place. Jump in and just share a little bit about my journey as well. Because, much like so many gay men, when I was younger in school, I got, severely bullied, like bullied every single day, like to the point where I just had zero friends. Literally, school would be me in fight or flight mode. I'd be picked on, pushed around, ganged up on all the time. And it was not a fun experience for me. And what did that lead to? It led to me isolating myself, feeling completely alone and lonely, dealing with depression, suffering from social anxiety, and getting to a place where, like, I contemplated suicide, right? These are some of the big things that happen to people in our community. So if you look at some of the numbers, more than 50% of gay men do get bullied. That could be at school, that could be in the workplace, that could be in a social setting, or it could even be at home, right? Some people actually get bullied by their families. We all know that, right? Also, when we look at some of the numbers, 50% of gay men will suffer from depression. 60% will suffer from anxiety, usually certain social anxiety. 70% deal with loneliness, and then 1 in 10 will deal with, suicide, right? Some of these numbers are 2 to 3 times higher than the general population. So there's something that happens in our experience as gay men that can cause us to have higher issues relating to mental health. So when it comes down to that, it is no wonder that it can be harder for us to go out there dating, connect to other gay men, and actually find love and find a relationship, right? If we've got all these extra barriers on top of it, it's going to make it harder, right? So when I, went through school, that was my experience. But when I left school and went into the workplace, the bullying didn't stop. I continued to get bullied by people who are in managerial positions of me. And I just thought that maybe this is how my life was going to be, right? And so because of that, I would go home, I would isolate myself in my room, I'd hide away from my family because I thought that if all these other people think this of me as a gay man who's hiding away, so hide in the closet, that if my family saw that in me, that they would feel the same way about me, right? And I just thought that if that had happened, there was no way that I could continue on. So that was the only thing holding me on from actually going ahead and ending my life, because I was like holding on to the fact that I haven't lost everyone, right? I've still got them, even though I'm pushing them away. And maybe you can relate to some of this, right? Because again, this experience isn't an uncommon one. So really where it boiled down to was is that I got to a place where I said to myself, you know, I've got to at least give this life a try. And I was living outside of a big city, about 90 minutes away from a big city. Where I was living was more of a, country coastal town. And of course, it's a little more backwards there. So, and for me to experience any type of, life with other gay people, because I'd never met someone who was gay or openly gay before, I would have to go down to the big city. And that would mean that I would have to go to one of a few kinds of places. That would have been going to a bar, a club, or, like a bathhouse sauna kind of situation, right? Because for people who aren't, around other gay people, that's, again, the majority of people how they met, especially back, 15, 20 odd years ago, right? Without the online apps, because there was no online apps, right? So I made my way down. I built up the courage and I went down there and I went to a gay club. And I was surprised immensely that when I was there, every single person around me who was gay, like I said, it was a whole new experience, looked like they were having the time of their life, living their best life. Now, of course they were, because they were outside in a room where they felt safe. They were able to drink and take drugs, and they were enjoying themselves, right? So my entry into understanding what the gay life was to go to clubs and bars. And that's where I first met my first friends, created any kind of connection with other people. And from that place on, that became addictive, right? I wanted to be around people who were like me, and I wanted to be around people who actually liked me as well. Considering all my experience before that, mostly were being bullied, right? So Of course, I got caught up in that scene and I got caught up into drinking heavily and partying. And that's what happened for 10, 15 years. Now, I would go out every single weekend, multiple times, hoping that maybe I'll meet someone. Maybe someone's gonna, find me attractive. Maybe I'll get into a relationship, right? The problem was is that was just not what was happening for me. I continued to meet guys who might have wanted to find me attractive, but they only found me attractive for one night stands or hookups, right? What we call them in our street. And so I got caught up into that kind of a thing, really looking for a relationship, but really just taking whatever I could get, hookups, etc. So I did that over and over and over and over again for years and years and years, probably spending, a few $100,000 going out every weekend for about 10, 15 years, hoping that I would meet someone tonight, hoping that I would meet someone tonight, hoping that I would meet someone tonight, just never having that. And because of that, my loneliness never went away. The depression that I was dealing with, was gone when I was out partying because I was, in the moment, living my life high, etc. But when I'd come home, I'd still be dealing with it. And then the anxiety, I would need to have a drink at least for me to feel calm, especially around other people, because I still didn't have any confidence in who I was. So that went on for such a long time. And that led me to the point where, I was about 3 years ago, beginning of COVID, like most people, completely isolated at home. Couldn't go out anymore, couldn't live that kind of a lifestyle. And but I got caught up into a deeper level of depression. I was working for a big company, had a team of 300 people, lots of stress, lots of all that stuff, and I would drink every single night to manage it. And because I couldn't get out away from myself, I would struggle with that. So I got to that point, and I just said to myself, I've been trying for 15 years to find a partner, doing the same thing over and over again. And I think they call that insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. The problem was is I wasn't getting any of those different results. So you might have looked me up and saw clinically insane under my name, because that's probably what would have happened if you look at it doing the same thing over again, expecting a different result. So I decided that, I've been trying to find love, or so that someone could love me, so that I could love me, so that I could be happy for so many years. It's not working out for me. What can I do? What can I change? And so I was at my rock bottom moment, like I said at the beginning of COVID, and I decided that it was time for me to go on my own journey, to sort myself out. So I took myself away from actually going on any dating apps or dating scene at all. Of course, I couldn't go anywhere because of COVID, so I deleted everything and just focused on me. I jumped into doing all of these kinds of things that I'd wanted to do for many years, but just been too, I guess, afraid to do because I'd have to put myself out there. And I went to all of these different seminars and all of these different personal development courses, and I got trained by, Tony Robbins and Brenda Bouchard and Grant Cardone, who are all quite massive in the personal development scene. And I finally worked on the things that were holding me back, the reasons why I was feeling depressed, the reasons why I was feeling anxious, the reasons why I was feeling so alone and lonely. I had to go back and deal with, all those years of being bullied and feeling like I was worthless, right? I had to go through and process all that stuff. And when I was able to go through and sort out all of my own traumas and start to go on the healing journey from that, life started to change and I started to make massive changes in my life. So quite quickly after that, I gave up all alcohol. I gave up all the drugs because they were a problem. They were causing me to feel further depressed and anxious, right? And because of that, I, realized that, I've been wanting to, give back to my community and try to help other people for so long. So that was when I decided that it was time for me to start my own business and support other gay men, because I knew that from my years of going out and partying and meeting so many people, I was definitely not the only person who was having these kinds of feelings. So I jumped in and created a business which was supporting gay men in similar pathways to where I'd been. What happened in that was that it led me to then being able to leave my massive, six-figure corporate career where I had 300 people and step fully into this, right? And because of that, things started to completely change in my life. The people in my life started to change because, again, if you're going out partying all the time and you no longer do that, people don't want to hang out with you as much. You started to have different realizations about, the kinds of people I wanted to have in my life. And because of that, I realized that being in a big city, which was full of just like a lot of gay men and a high percentage of those people who were into that party thing, I had to get away from that. So I decided that I'd move from Australia over to Bali, which is in Indonesia, and have more of a spiritual life because I'd been here before. And I knew that that was something that was going to help me, support me, continue to go on my own journey, but then also support me in the sense of being able to help more people from a different perspective. And the great thing about that was when I came to this place, I realized quite quickly that, I feel like maybe I'm ready to get back out there on the dating thing. And I did. And the thing was, if you've been on the online app for a while, you know that there is a number of different types of people. And some of those people can be frustrating, right? So you might be someone who is looking for a relationship, but you're on the app, and the first thing you get is a message of someone sending you a dick pic, right? Now, for me in the past, that would piss me off and frustrate me. And I would just, delete all the apps because I'd be like, oh, like, why is everyone just wanting sex, right? The thing was is that those people were still there. But what I realized was is that they no longer bothered me. And I would just get the message, block it, and move on. And I started to have a clear vision of what it was that I was looking for. And so I started to go on dates. And while the dates started to go different because I started to connect to people on a different level. I didn't need to drink to feel confident because I was confident within myself to speak and get to know people on a different level. I was asking different questions because I knew how I wanted to, like what I wanted to know about these people to see if we were a match. The great thing about that was within, such a short time, like I said, I started dating multiple people, and then I finally found someone that I was like, wow, this is what people say it's like when they find someone that they feel like there's a real connection with. That feeling that's different. And if anyone's ever been in a relationship before, you probably know what I mean. That feeling early on where you realize, I think this person is right for me. So continue dating him. And the great thing about that is now he is now my partner who I've been dating for almost 2 years now. And the great thing about that is that I've been able to bring love into my life from a place where, like I said, I was someone who was clinically insane, doing the same thing over and over again, hoping that I'd get a different result. But the real thing was is that I needed to change what I was doing. I needed to do some of the work that was on me, deal with some of the stuff that was holding off on and why I was, avoiding dealing with those things. That was my journey. And it might be relatable for you in some ways or some not. But the fantastic thing about that is having someone who supports me allows me to then be at my best so I can come out here and support other gay men in finding love for themselves. So I'm super blessed to be able to do that. And that's kind of a little bit about the story of where I got to in that and why, like I said, now I've learned the formula, I've been through it myself, and how I've been able to help hundreds of gay men over the last 2 years to get to that position of finding their person in life. So let's kind of jump in and, ask a couple of questions to you right now. I've talked about, how I spent, close to 15 years and probably a few $100,000 unresourcefully trying to find love, right? I spent all of that stuff going out, hoping that it would, that something would be different. I wonder if you were to think about it for yourself over the years, how much time and money have you been spending unresourcefully, meaning like trying your hardest and just not getting results looking for love? Has it been a few years? Has it been more than a decade like me, or has it even been longer, right? Because for you, it's about understanding if you've been doing that for so long and you have yet to get the result that you're after, is it time for you to start looking at doing something different? Now, of course, you're pondering on that right now, but I'm assuming because you guys have come here today that you know it's time for you to do something different. So as you're thinking about that, how much time and money have you spent over the years on resourcefully doing that? If it's anywhere near mine, join the club. Don't feel bad. Like I said, 200,000, 15 years, it's a bloody long time. But know that there is always light at the end of the tunnel if you are ready to take that next step in your own journey for finding love and finding a relationship as well. Awesome. Well, let me introduce you to one of my clients who actually came through the Love Attraction Online program. And where Matthew was when he found me was probably about 18 months ago. He joined the program and started working on those modules that we were talking about. Matthew was, in a relationship with a guy who was less than half his age, and where they were at in their relationship is that him and Matthew and this other guy were addicted to meth. And their whole relationship was built around drugs, right? And deep down, Matthew knew that, this was like him having the drugs was him holding on to this
relationship with this younger guy. And so that was where Matthew was struggling with getting off it and cleaning up and sorting it out. It's because he was like, deep down, I know that if I get rid of this, that's going to go as well. So he came to me from that perspective, right? Really like knowing that this wasn't right for him, but like feeling so lonely and just taking sometimes what he could get. And I can relate to that. Maybe you can too. So Matthew came in and did the work, and he jumped in and worked on, especially modules 1 and 2. Module 1 was all about understanding us and really doing some of the work on himself, especially from stuff from the past, because, Matthew comes from more of an indigenous background. And the truth was that pretty much zero people in his family, in his life, accepted him as a gay man. And so that came with some issues and some trauma. So we had to work through some of that stuff during the program. He did that, and then he started to really understand deeper, more about himself as a gay man, which was in module 3, and started doing the work. He got himself clean, which is fantastic, and realized quite quickly that the boyfriend moved on to someone else and found someone else quite quickly, and he was alone, but he was okay with that. The great thing about Matthew is he continued doing the program, continued doing the work. And a few months ago, Matthew found his partner. And the great thing about that is they've been together now for about 4 months. And Matthew is going to be moving overseas with his partner to start a new life in a place which is more supportive, because it'll be closer to his partner's family, who have already welcomed him into their life. So for Matthew, he was able to go from someone who was holding on to something and really addicted to some strong, drugs, to being able to clean himself up, go through the program, learn more about himself, and find love. And again, it shows to you that these things are possible. So that's Matthew's journey there. Let's jump in a bit and talk about, though, now, what one of the main things I said I was going to talk about. What are some of the main reasons that us as gay men fail at finding lasting love? One of those ones I just touched on a little bit with Matthew is addictions. If we're struggling with addictions, whether that is alcohol, whether that is drugs, whether that is prescription medication, whether it's sex, big common one in our community, it could be porn, it could even be work. I know it many times in my life that I threw myself into work and I was doing 60, 70 odd hours of work because I was avoiding these other areas of my life, right? So things like that can happen in our life, and us having addictions, no matter what they are going to hold us back from having like a healthy relationship, right? Now, I want you to think about this, right? Like if you go on a date with someone who's a drug addict, and someone who is into that lifestyle, that becomes a big red flag for you. And you say, look, sorry, like I can't date you because, I can't have that in my life, and we're just not going to be a match, right? So you see how for you, that's an unhealthy thing, that you're seeing someone as a drug addict, right? Now, like I said, I'm not calling anyone here a drug addict. Like I said, I've dealt with that in my past. I know from my experience where it comes from. But like you might have one of those other addictions. If we talk about sex and porn is usually for gay men their first entry into life as a gay man and exploring their sexuality, right? Because before we ever come out, we're in the closet. When you're exploring to understand if this is you or these are your fantasies, you're going to be going online and you're probably going to be watching porn, right? And I'm saying this here because that leads to a lot of times people's reliance on that. And usually over time, that what they've done when they've done studies is that the addiction to heroin, addiction to porn in the brain, when they do scans when people are using it, are the same things. So it has these high releases of dopamine and serotonin, which then become highly, highly addictive. So you might be someone who uses porn every day, or maybe you've tried to go a week without and you've struggled to. It's probably because, again, there might be some issues there as well. Again, I can admit to having a porn addiction that I've had to work hard over the years to completely get rid of, especially over that period where I completely cut out everything from my life of dating and looking for a relationship, to go cold turkey in that area. So I know how difficult it is to get past it, but I also know how different it is on the other side. And that, if we have those addictions, it can, like I said, affect us in really having a healthy relationship as well. Because again, the reasons why people use things like porn, or maybe have sex when they're having sex with multiple different men, is because of that need for variety. So sometimes meaning that that as soon as you turn on the porn, you're probably not watching the same video or every single day. You're watching something new, and it gives you that new hit. So think about that. If there's something in your life that maybe you're struggling with in that regard, that can be something that if we work on, you can start to see different results in your relationship and dating life. No, another one is same thing as there is that avoiding dealing with our problems in life. Like I said, I was going out doing the same thing for 15 years, avoiding the fact that back when I was in school and, in the workplace, I was getting bullied. And because I didn't deal with it, it kept having the depression, the anxiety and stuff was happening because of all those things. And anything that would happen that would make me feeling any sort of like, worthlessness would bring me back to some of those moments and I start to get triggered by it, right? So I would try to avoid feeling that way because, for any of us who knows what it's like to go through bullying or depression or anxiety, if you can try to avoid it, and of course you try to take that easy way out, right? Which is why so many people jump on and take medication to try to help them because they don't want to be living in that world. And even if they don't know, a way that you can help yourself relieve it from it permanently, you take the quick fix because sometimes the quick fix is going to make you feel better for that moment, right? I know what it's like to chase down those temporary highs because normal life for me wasn't that great, right? So those are some of the things that if we forget to or avoid dealing with them, we realize that they resurface, and sometimes they come out in emotions. So maybe they come out in anger, maybe they come out in extreme sadness or depression, maybe they come out in a lot of fears, right? That anxiety level of going out and dating because you don't want to be in a situation where someone doesn't like you or rejects you because you're so used to knowing what that feeling is like. It could also come down to hurt and pain, right? That could be really painful to go through some of those experiences. And also, it could come down to being at a level of, you know, really feeling guilty, right? Like going through the same thing over and over again has some guilt and some shame around it. So those emotions can come out, especially again if we're avoiding dealing with our problems. The reality also is that, a lot of gay men suffer from what we call a perfectionist mindset. And what does that mean is that, throughout our life, we, growing up, we thought we would become really, really good at maybe hiding the side of us that was gay, right? And one of the ways that we do that is becoming really great at other things. I'm going to be a great son. I'm going to be a great friend. I'm going to be a great employee. Because if I'm great at work and I'm a great friend, people aren't going to worry about the other thing or even look at it, right? Because I'm so good at all these other things. And if I'm so good at all these other things, like I said, I become addicted to trying to be perfect because then I'm getting approval and acceptance from other people. And that's how I often think that I need to be in order to get that. Excuse me. Something in my throat. So yes, we get addicted to being perfectionists. And then oftentimes in that same token, if we have high standards for who we are, we also have high standards for dating and relationships and, looking for that one. My apologies. Dry throat there. So yeah, so when we're looking for relationships and dating, it becomes, again, we want perfection from other people. And then if we're going on dates with people, we go up and we see them and go, if we see anything that becomes anything outside of our perfect tick box, no, sorry, you're not a fit. And we then cut out people that probably could be really good for us out of our life because of those choices that we're making as well. So that's usually, again, another key thing that happens as well. Now, when we go deeper into it, like I said, we talked about dealing with past traumas, but there's also a level of many gay men still that deal with what we call internalized homophobia. So there could be a part of a lot of gay men who also say that, being gay is so much harder. If only I was straight or, all of these things that have made it difficult for me. And we have some pain and pain related to it. That means we haven't got to full 100% acceptance of it. Now, because of the fact that, the coming up process is never just a one-time event, it happens throughout our whole life, we can move up and down the scales of the stages of coming out, right? Think about this. You first came out to yourself or you got outed by someone else, right? You may not have even fully accepted it and someone outed you. And then, there's different people in our life that we have to tell. We might be telling a friend first, and then we tell another friend, and then we tell our family, or we tell one parent, and then we tell another parent. But then every time you meet new people in your life, it's almost like you either have to say it or unsaying it, and you start to then worry, oh, what does this person think of gay people, right? And I know we're in 2023, but we know that, oh, there are so many people in the world, and depending where you are in the world, that can have you feeling very much like who you are is not accepted or acceptable. And so then if we go through those stages continuously, then the full coming to full acceptance can be more of a bumpy road, right? You have your ups and your downs, right? Because again, if you walked into a room right now and there was 20 people in it, and 20 people looked at him and didn't like, had a problem with being gay, I don't know many people that would feel very confident in that room, right? So it happens on a continuous basis, which is why, again, so many gay men still suffer from internalized homophobia, which then affects getting into relationships as well, because you're suffering with these things about your identity, that then can come and play out in our levels of masculinity and all of that stuff, right? And when we talk about that, the masculine and the feminine, there's a lot of people in our community who have a real problem with any kind of femininity, and there's a lot of people who also on the other side struggle with masculinity as well, because again, oftentimes it's that energy that they're trying to, push down from themselves. We are a multifaceted being, and we have masculine and feminine energy within us. I'm sure you all probably know this. But again, if we're someone who's trying to be hyper one way or another, that's going to affect us, because the truth is that on one side of it, if you're over here and you're denying this other part of you, how are you going to truly connect to someone, right? Because oftentimes it's a yin and a yang, right? We don't attract someone who is exactly like us. We attract someone who's, a match to us. So if you're hyper masculine and you don't like feminine people, it's going to be hard for you to attract another super masculine man, right? Because that's not necessarily what's going to happen, right? Or because so hyper masculine on both sides, they're denying parts of themselves. So there's going to be issues that arise in those things as well. So it's just about really understanding, again, the multifaceted beings that we are, right? So those are the other things that are going to affect us, again, especially as gay men, because men and men, it's not the same as men and women, right? It's easy for society roles to say, you're a man, so you be the masculine, you're a woman, you be the feminine, right? But we probably know people in our life who are again more, who are straight men who are probably maybe a bit more feminine. And we probably definitely know some women in our life who are straight, who definitely more, alpha female, or have them more masculine energy to them as well, right? It's not male, female, masculine, feminine, right? We all have this energy within us that we have to like own and empower ourselves with, right? And the great thing about being gay is that we do have more of an acceptance to be both sides than, I guess, straight men, right? Because some people might view us as one way or another. So those are some things that will affect us as well. When we get deeper down to it, when it comes to relationships, again, I talked about how, gay men are 4 times more likely to have toxic relationships, and again, repeat those patterns as well. That's going to affect it. If you've had a toxic relationship in the past, it's likelihood that you're going to get into toxic relationships unless you process and deal with the reasons that happen, or the things that happen in those relationships. Again, if we don't do that, then we oftentimes attract another toxic relationship. So for us as gay men, we need to understand that, again, if we work on ourselves before we get into the relationship, we're more likely to have a healthy relationship with someone. But if we go into it from a place of us still having traumas or internalized homophobia or hypermasculinity or perfectionist mindset, the likelihood that we're going to attract someone who is healthy for us is probably not at a high level as well. When we also go down to it a little bit deeper, as people in general, we learn behaviors from people around us, right? We model behaviors. So growing up, we might have modeled behaviors from our family, our parents, our teachers, etc., right? Now, because of this, oftentimes we learn unhealthy patterns of behavior, right? Who has probably had, relationships with someone in their family or someone who was a caregiver or something like that, where, there's been some real problems with maybe how they treated you or maybe parented you. Like, I'm not saying we can't expect every parent to be perfect parents, right? Some people do the best with what they have. Some people weren't born to be parents and they fell into those roles, right? Again, some of the children don't get to choose and say, hey, yeah, I want a perfect parent, and you get it. You get what you get sometimes, right? So growing up in some of those kinds of environments, and then also being someone who is, hiding more of your identity because, you don't feel safe to share it, that's going to add a higher level of unhealthy patterns of behaviors for relationships, right? Because again, if you're taught love from your caregivers and maybe it's taught in an unhealthy way, you're more likely to go into a toxic relationship because you think that love is that way. That the unhealthy love is the way that you get love. And these, like I said, these aren't our fault. This is just, again, sometimes generational things that happened, depending on, where you live in the world, your family's generational backgrounds, etc. Right? What do they say when it comes to people with wealth? Like if you're born into wealth, you're like 90% gonna have wealth for your whole life, right? Whereas the opposite, if you're born into a more poverty area, it's gonna be 100,000 times harder for you to even get to a place of wealth, right? Because you don't have the same advantages, you don't have the same opportunities. So think about the same things when it comes to that it's not just about wealth, it's about also your own mental health and your own patterns of behavior and how you think and how you live and how you behave. Because again, you're taught these things. And if you're only taught one way, you think that's the only way. You think that's the right way. And oftentimes, again, people who may have had sexual abuse or abuse from their parents end up somewhere down the line can also fall into that same pattern, right? They repeat the pattern, but on the other side of it, that can happen often as well, right? So it's also about figuring out, what do I need to do to break some of these patterns? Because if I have patterns that are unhealthy, do I think that that could be a reason why I'm probably not going to have a healthy relationship as well? Because that's probably going to affect it as well. And then when we get to a deeper level of it, some of the other key things that really hold us back is that some of us don't necessarily know who we are on a deep level. If I was to ask Matt or Galaxy or, Shavintha, who are you? You might come out and say that, um, my name is Cristiano and I'm 36 and I live in Bali and I'm a coach. And so you start giving off people facts about who you are. But really deep at your core, those facts may be truths about yourself, but they're not who you are, right? Telling me what you do doesn't necessarily tell me much about you. Telling me your name doesn't necessarily tell me much about you. So when we get down to it, if we want to find a healthy relationship or a relationship where we have a deep connection, we also actually then have to first find that within ourselves. So it's about going a bit more of a deeper understanding of ourselves. And oftentimes, the way to do this is it's like an unlayering of an onion, right? Every time you peel off, more and more happens. And oftentimes, as you peel off a new layer, you start to get more emotional, right? So it's the same thing in life. If we take off an emotional onion and we peel off, you have to sometimes deal with some of the stuff that's in our life for us to know ourselves better, right? The best way to go through and understand yourself is to have gone through some tough times. Those people who've been through the toughest of times probably know themselves the best, right? So it's about, like I said, through those dealing with the struggles and dealing with the traumas and dealing with the past stuff that's happened in our life is how we actually grow and evolve, get to know ourselves better. But then the more you know yourself, it becomes easier for you to know what it is that you are looking for as well. So that's the next thing. After knowing who you are, a lot of people have this real broad perspective of what they're looking for. Like I speak to, like I said, thousands of people every year. I help, hundreds of these men. But so many of these people, like when they say, what are you looking for? People talk about sexual positions, first of all. Like that's the first thing on top of the list. Oh, I'm looking for a top. It's like, if that's the most important thing in your life, in a relationship, that could be one of the main reasons why you're not going to find someone. Of course, compatibility is important, but if your most important thing that you say is I need a top, or and like I need someone who can support me, like you're looking at it wrong. It's about getting clearer on what you do want, right? Like I want someone who finding some when we get into perfectionist people, they're looking for someone who's got an amazing job. They're like have the amazing body. Like they're looking for people to tick all these boxes. If you're looking for someone to tick all your boxes, you're probably going to never find that person. So really, the clearer you want and you get, like I said, you start to not see these people as much, or they don't bother you, right? Because I was so broad before when I was looking for someone just to love me because I wanted someone to love me for me to love myself, me to be happy, right? I was getting people from all over the spectrum, and it was like a hot gibberish of mess. But when I got clear on myself did the work with myself when I got back in the dating world, like I said, this is what I was looking for. All these other people were still there. I just started blocking them and stopped worrying about them. I didn't care about them. And I was only really getting to know and chat and date with the people that I was really clear on. So the clearer I got, the easier it was for me to find someone, right? Because it was, it's that same thing on Tinder. You swipe. Oftentimes, 90% of people who swipe don't even read anything that people say. They look at the images. Oh, yep, cool. He's cute. Let's go to that one. That's reality, right? So again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be attracted to people, but I want you to look at, if you're looking for what you want, you need to have really reprioritize what it is and get clearer on it, because going in there with just like, I want him to be this position or that position, it's not going to get you really what you're looking for. Yeah. Finally, a lot of men may know that they've got these kinds of problems. They may go like, yeah, I know that I'm depressed. I know I'm suffering with this here, but maybe they don't know how to make changes in their life. They don't know what to do about it, right? So you're out there knowing that this is a problem for you, but you have yet to figure out what to do. Sorry, I left myself on mute. It's about understanding what you need to do in order to be able to make those changes in your life. To be able to say, look, yeah, I do need some help with this, and I need to get the right support. And then, like I said, talking about how we can become resourceful in doing that. Like I said, for me, 15 years unresourcefully trying to do the same things. And then it only took me 1 year to really focus on all these things properly for me to actually get what I was looking for. Right. So I would love to trade back those 15 years, but I also know that they come with a wealth of experience and a wealth of stuff that's made me me and made me in this position. And I probably wouldn't have been able to meet my partner if I didn't have those 15 years. So no regrets. But like I said, if I can save some of you guys the time and the hassle and get you what you need, then isn't that, being more resourceful than trying everything always on your own? And then when we look at it on the final thing that I've got down here is that we all have what we call inner saboteurs or voices in our head, right? Now, if you think I'm crazy by saying that I talk to myself, then you know that you're crazy too, because we all talk to ourselves. We all have these things that will tell us, you know, don't do that. Oh, no, like you shouldn't put yourself out there. Or you're going to get rejected. And they're all there within ourselves to kind of stop us from, oh my God, this cough isn't good right now, to stop us from getting outside of our comfort zone. Right? Now, these inner saboteurs, there's 10 of them that we have, and I don't have time to necessarily go through all of them, but each one of them has been designed to keep us safe in this little bubble of that. Because anytime you stretch yourself, anytime you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to maybe some rejection or to something like that. And so your inner saboteur is going to tell you, don't do that, or that's not good, or you know how this is going to end up, right? And maybe you stop yourself from taking action, right? Now, the biggest one of the 10 in saboteurs is the judge, right? Now, this is the part of us that is judgmental, and we are judgmental towards others, but the real people that we're being judgmental towards is ourselves. So you might be, scrolling through online and going, oh, that person's, that doesn't have the body that, oh, that person's a bit this way or a bit that way, right? That person's a bit feminine, that person's a bit fat, that person's whatever it is. We've all heard this probably from someone. If we've been online dating, I'm sure you have a story here where someone has said something to you where you're too this, you're too that, or you're not my type, or whatever it is, right? So the judge is that person that is judging other people, but in fact, it's a deeper level of judgment towards the self. And so these inner saboteurs, yes, they're trying to protect us, but the reality is they're actually holding us back from getting what it is that we truly want. So those are the main things, the main reasons why us as gay men are failing to find long-lasting love. So let me come in and quickly share with you another one of my clients, James. Now, James came in about 2 years ago, and where James was at in his life was that, he was pretty much at his rock bottom place. Um, he'd been using drugs for about 6 years. Basically had isolated himself from, family, friends. He was at a job where they were just introducing pretty much like drug testing. So he was at a place where, like, if one thing fell apart, he told me that, he would have contemplated suicide. So really not happy in all areas of his life. And again, had because of not having anyone in his life, he wasn't dating anything like that, right? So James came into the program and really worked on the principles again around understanding himself and understanding what was going on. And in that process, we had to do some deeper work, right? We had to do some deeper work around him healing because he had struggled with, his father when he came out, pretty much cut him out of his life. So his father rejected him fully for him being gay, and that came with a lot of pain. And because of that, he got caught up into, like I said, the drugs to try to avoid those pain. So we had to work through a lot of that stuff. And so when we did some of the deeper work and we cleared out, some of these negative emotions and the negative charges and the traumas, we got to a place where, he was able to forgive his father. And in doing that, we worked on him getting clean. Great thing about that is James now, next month in April, 2 years clean off of meth. And for people who've ever understood or addictions, 95% of people who get addicted to meth don't ever make it past 12 months. So it's a great thing to see that people can do it by doing this deeper work on himself, right? So James did that work. Great thing about that is he sorted out his relationship with his mum. Obviously he was clean, so he didn't get fired from that job, but he decided to leave because he wasn't happy with that job. He got back into studies. He studied to become a nurse, which is something he wants to give back and help other people who are, addicted to drugs because he knows the struggles he had. And the fantastic thing as well is about 5 months ago, James got into a relationship for the first time. And James has been in a happy, healthy relationship ever since. And it was all because James came in and followed the program and did the work, especially doing the deeper work, working on the trauma from his father and forgiving that so that he could no longer hold on to that stuff and use that as the excuse why he was addicted to the drugs. So it's just a story again about someone who followed their intuition, said yes, and took the steps. They were committed to making that happen, right? And to be honest, James came into it for more than one reason. And the great thing about that is that he got more than one thing that changed in his life as well. So let's jump into these 5 foundations so that we can share exactly what it is that you can put into practice or you can focus on and think about in attracting and having a healthy relationship. So foundation one is you attract someone that is a match to the energetic level that you are at. So we've talked about this, right? Like I said, if you're someone who's going on a date with someone who's a drug addict or an alcoholic, and you're not definitely in that world, you're not going to be someone who wants to date that person. So the same would be in the sense of like you are an energetic match. So again, if you go into a relationship and you're in a place of, severe lonely or depression, your likelihood of you attracting someone who's also probably in that pain, in that place is high, right? And oftentimes from that place, that's why relationships don't ever work out because again, if someone's got this, like I said, dealing with loneliness or dealing with depression, then you make up a lot of stories in your head. And so if you're you self-sabotage yourself is what I mean to. So for you to get to a place where you want whatever relationship that you're looking for, you actually need to do the work to become in the place of that as well. So again, if you've got all these, skeletons in the closet, just know that in a relationship, a real relationship, if you're really getting into a serious relationship, they will all come out. And so if you have yet to deal with them and you've been thinking that you're hiding them well, you can only hide them so long. Especially when you move in with someone, right? You can't, whoever's lived with someone, whether it's a friend or a roommate, you can't hide all your skeletons if you've got them, right? They come out. So it's just about understanding that if you want to get to a place and you know what you're looking for, it would be the first thing would be start is where am I at? Am I a match to what I'm looking for? If I'm not, what work do I need to get done? What support do I need in order for me to get to that place as well? That's foundation one. So here's the question for you guys then. If you were being completely honest, 100% honest, is the energy that you put off positive or negative? Are you coming across desperate or needy? I know from myself in the past, prior to like doing that work, I 100% came across desperate or needy. I was looking for anybody to be attracted or love me so that I could love myself. And so they came with a level of desperation. So anytime I would go on a date with someone, that can be smelled a mile away. You've probably all been on a date with someone who's so desperate or needy, right? And you just be like, oh my God, like, sorry, like you're too much. And you can feel that energy. So this is what we talk about feeling the energies that you do. People put off, different kinds of energies that you feel. Now, you probably all met someone in your life that, you've met them for the first time. Wow, this person's amazing. And you feel so connected to this person. And it could be a friend, doesn't have to be, any romantic ways, but you probably met someone who you were like, wow, like you met them straight away, they're a stranger, and you just connected straight away. Good energy, you connected to that. And then on the other side of it, like if you've all met someone who's been like, you've met them and you're like, I don't know what it is about that person. I just don't like them. They're not giving me a good vibe. So think about energy as vibe, like what you feel about someone, that's the energy. So if you're being honest, are you coming across in one way or another? Desperate, needy, positive, negative. What is it for you as well? I'll share with you one of my clients, Ron, who came to me again and joined the Love Attraction program. And which Ron was at before he came was he late 60s, came to me. He'd been married his whole life, had a family, everything like that. And got to a place a few years before coming to me where he was like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And he decided to accept himself and come out, which meant that he ended up having to leave his wife and go through that place. So Ron had been dealing with, the fallout of all of that while trying to get out there and, find a relationship. So where Ron came into it was that, there was a part of him that still needed to focus on module 3, which was understanding himself as a gay man, because he'd been denying it for 50, 60 odd years, right? And then, there was a part of him that also needed to understand more about relationships with gay men, because his initial thought was, how can I just replicate the relationship I had with my wife, but with a man? He wanted to just have the same thing. And it doesn't work that way, right? It doesn't work the same way. So he wasn't getting anyone that he was connecting with or matching with. It was a big struggle. So he came in, did the work, sorted out some of the stuff that we had to, when he came through the program, we had to really sort out some of the stuff that happened with, the divorce and his family, because, you know, that was weighing over him. So we sorted that stuff out, got him to a place where he focused on that, got to a place of peace with that, got through the divorce and everything like that. And the great thing about that, Ron continued to do the work on it. And within a few months later, he found a partner. He found a partner in a random Facebook group online that was, something to do with, Canadian gay men catching up in Vancouver or something like that, right? Random person, and they connected. And Ron had said to me, he said that, like, he'd seen this person before, but didn't feel like they were a right match. But again, a few months later, after doing the work, realized that this person, might have been more suitable than he once thought. Went on the date, and they've been together ever since. And the great thing about that was just recently they went and celebrated going overseas on a trip to England to meet to introduce him to his kid's family, to introduce his partner to his family. So they went on a massive holiday together. So this is what happens again when you work on some of the stuff that's holding you back in your perception of what a relationship is or needs to be, and you let go of that stuff and just get clear on what it is that you really want. This is what you can bring into your life by understanding those principles as well, and really changing your energy as well. What's foundation 2? We've talked a bit about this, getting clarity on who you are and what you want in a partner is how you're going to attract the right person. So I talked to you about my story about working on myself and really going through that and getting clear on myself. That narrowed everything down, right? I got so clear on who I was and what it was. I attracted the right person into my life. So being able to do that work helps you to do that. Now, like I said, I run boot camps, and which, like I said, 8 or 9 hour days. And the specific key thing that we get out of the boot camp is helping the gay men that come to really get a deeper understanding of who you are by really answering some deeper questions. And then, like I said, getting clear on what it is that you want in a partner. So when you know those things, like I said, you've got a map, you've got a pathway forward. The less you know, the less way you could be walking down this street and that street until you're completely lost, right? So it's about basically getting clear so you can get the map to where it is that you want to go and find the person that's right for you. So questioning for you then is this, how clear of a vision do you have of who you are and what kind of a relationship that it is that you want? How clear are you on who you are and what it is that you want? Because this is going to be your deeper perspective work that you need to think about in order for you to take the next step. in order for you to attract in the right person into your life. Now, like I said, you might be someone who might not be as honest with yourself, and you say, yep, I know who I am, I know what I want. But the truth is that you're wishy-washy and you're taking what you can get in certain situations. Again, be honest with yourself, because at the end of the day, these are answers that you are giving to yourself, not to me, right? So then I want to show you one of my clients, Rob, who did exactly that, got clear on who he was and what it was. Rob came to me about a year ago, where he was in his life, he'd been in relationships in the past, but they've been toxic relationships, like to the level of abuse, etc. Like really not good relationship, where people, what he would say, his words were, they took advantage of him. Took advantage of him and his wealth and all these things. And that led to him, not dating and pulling himself away for 5 years, fearful of going into another relationship, because again, he hadn't really worked on why he'd been in those multiple toxic relationships. He also had some, health issues, which affected him in, what his perception was, is that no one was going to accept him. So he had all these misconceptions about dating and all that stuff. Rob came and joined me, came in and joined the online program, which is great. And he got to doing the work, especially around, module 1 and module 4, which was understanding himself and then mastering different areas of life. But the great thing is Rob came and joined one of my 8, boot camps, events that I offered. He came in and did the full 8-9 hours. And it was all, like I said, it was all about getting clear on who you are and what you wanted. And we did a complete audit around himself in all different areas of his life, like followed the full wheel of life, right? And the great thing about this was, after this 8-9 hour event, Rob told me at the end was that he knew that there was someone in his life that had been a friend of his for 10, 15 years that he felt was right for him. Hadn't really thought of this before, or he'd been trying to avoid it, but he got so clear that he actually saw someone in his own life. So I gave Rob the challenge. I said, you need to go and have this conversation with him. He was a bit afraid because, 10 years friendship, he didn't want to ruin it. But he said, you know what, I've got to give it a go. Literally the next week, Rob came back and told me that this guy and him had started dating. No joke. Fantastic story. And now they've been together for quite some time now, and they're planning to retire together over in Spain and leave US because they want to live a different life, a more different life. Now, I'm not going to say to you that for every one of you, that you get so clear that you're going to find a person in your life. It could happen. I'm just giving you an experience that showed Rob got so clear and he was able to find someone that was already there. So it's about understanding the principle. The clearer you get, the more easier it is to find someone that's right for you. So I'm super happy to see that happen to Rob. Let's jump into number 3. Self-healing and growth is going to be paramount to a successful relationship. So I've talked about this quite a bit today. The reasons why gay men fail are, we're avoiding dealing with problems. We have stuff that's related to, traumas around our experiences being gay, or, growing up, with our families, or whatever's happened. So many things can happen, right? But if we don't do the work, again, it's going to be so much harder for us to find that healthy relationship or the happy relationship that we want. So self-healing and growth is going to be paramount for you to have that successful relationship. It's just point blank, period, the truth. I know that from my experience. I know that from so many of the, like I said, so many of the gamers that come to me. Once they've done that, they start to see things differently. They start to attract the different kinds of people because they know more about who they are and what they really want as well. So then, if we're looking at it and you're being honest with yourself, have you dealt with those wounds, dealt with those traumas from your previous relationships or from your childhood? Thank you for letting me know what you've done. Have you dealt with those wounds or those traumas, right? Because if you haven't, that would be what I would say are some of those next steps, right? These foundations work together. Like I said, the clearer we get on who we are, it's because we've done some of the work on our, like I said, going through some of the shit that we've been dealing through, right? As we walk through that and those experiences and how we really feel and relate to them, we get to know ourselves more. And then again, we're more happier, we're more free because we've dealt with it, right? So getting to that place means that you've dealt with some of the work. So let me share with you one of my clients, Sean, then, who actually came through the online program. And Sean, where he was at, came to me about 9 months ago now, middle of last year. And Sean was at a place where, he was just turned 40, and he hadn't been dating or in a relationship since he was 24 years old. He'd pretty much been holding himself back. He'd had the apps, but he was like, he'd go on there and he would delete himself. Where Sean was at in his life was that he suffered from depression and anxiety to the point where he actually he told me he would hide away in his bed for days because he didn't know how to, like, he couldn't be around people. He was so like in that zone, right? And for anyone who's dealt with it, you can probably relate to probably wanting to hide away from the world. Sean had dealt with a lot of issues growing up. He'd had religious trauma, stuff had happened with him, with his family and the church. I don't want to go into too much detail, but like think about some of the worst things that could possibly happen. That's the level of stuff that Sean was dealing with. So we had to work through that. We had to help him, and I did some of my advanced techniques as a master NLP practitioner to help him through releasing him from the anger, the sadness, the fear, the hurt, the shame, the guilt, all that stuff. And the fantastic thing is within a couple of weeks after we did those processes, Sean told me that depression pretty much gone. Anxiety at absolute, he would class it a 10. He said it's sometimes, the max gets to about a 3 or a 4, right? Got out there, started going on dates again. He started properly, getting back out there and going on to work, right? Now, for Sean, for not going on a date for 16 years and then getting to a place where he's now dating. He's dating a couple of people at the moment. He said he's not found someone serious yet. But the great thing about Sean is he's not giving up. And for someone who had been away for 16 years to just be on the dating scene, he says for him that's his big win. But I know with the way that Sean's been working, that within a couple of months he's going to get those results because he's committed to doing it and he knows more about who he is and what he really wants. So that's a great story to hear from Sean's success. Foundation 4, relationships are a living entity and they do need to be nurtured that way. So basically, in a relationship, you've got yourself, you've got your partner, and then you've got yourself as a relationship. So there's a third living entity. And so sometimes we focus solely on ourselves or we focus all on our partner and we don't really nurture the whole relationship. So for us to have that healthy relationship, we need to be able to focus on the 3 different aspects of it. Us making sure that we're happy, helping our partner to figure out that he's happy, and then how our relationship cannot be, right? Now, I know that there are so many things that can happen in life that are outside of necessarily who you are that can cause conflict in a relationship, right? If you live with a partner, or you ever have lived with a partner, you know that something can happen where you didn't do this around the house and they're pissed off at you, or vice versa, right? There's lots of little things that will happen in life that can cause conflict. So if you're focused on, oh my God, he told me this off and I'm going to be pissed off at him, you're missing the bigger picture. Sometimes you have to realize that those little things aren't your relationship, they're more household things or whatever it is. And you have to learn how to enhance that and work on it together so that you have a bit of a flow. How do we live together? How do we create something together, not just me and you? It's an us as well. So that's foundation 4. So then I want you to think about this. If you've had relationships in the past, how have you treated those relationships in the past? Or if you've never had one, how have you viewed other people like your parents, other people in your life view relationships? Because this will be key for you to understand, your perception of relationships, and what you're looking from a relationship, because that'll affect it as well. You've got to look at it and go, have I been separating things and causing too much of a separation when I could bring more of a unity into it as well? I want to show you Mark, who came to me in a bit of a different situation than most people, but I also help a lot of couples as well who were going through tough times. Mark came to me, been in a relationship for about 16 years, but was at a place where massive fights every single week. He would call them World War III fights. He was at a point where he was like, I can't live like this any longer. I either need to figure out what's going on or it's time to call it quits. So Mark came to me, joined the online program, started doing the work, especially around number 1 and 2, which was again around understanding himself and understanding around dating and relationships, and realized that he had still not processed and dealt with some of the things that had happened because he also got severely bullied at school, and that would have caused him to fight, get this kind of like someone's attacking him level, like got that level of trauma that comes from like really being bullied a lot. Like you probably understand, you can probably relate to that. So we had to work through that part, and when we worked through that, what we realized was that like some of the fights, 1, weren't as big as what he thought they were, and 2, could be avoided with better communication. So Mark learned how to better communicate, The great thing about that, he was so committed to doing it. He worked and worked and worked over a number of months. And the great thing about Mark was just at the end of last year, him and his partner renewed their own vows, did a full ring ceremony, and are in the best place that they've ever been. So from a place of like probably pretty much fighting every week, like, you know, traumatic fighting, to wanting to leave the relationship, to doing the work, to saving the relationship, to being happy and healthy in a relationship now. That is what can happen when he put, you know, separated, like he put the parts together, the me, the you, the us as well. Then we move on to foundation 5. Getting outside help is going to be paramount to a healthy, growing relationship, and then finding long-lasting love. So if you're someone who, for a lot of gay men, we think that we have to do everything on our own. We don't ask for help. We don't, reach out to people. We often find that we don't move forward in the right direction, So getting someone who, like I said, is experienced in relationships or experienced in understanding gay men or experienced in understanding what it is that we're looking for, it's important to get help from the right people. Now, you also might be someone who who has asked for help, but you might be asking the wrong people. So you might be going over to some of your single friends and asking them about dating. Now, if you're asking single people about dating, maybe you're getting the wrong advice. Maybe it's why you're stuck in those positions. So it's also important to make sure that if you're going to get help, that you get the right kinds of help. Go to the people that can support you in getting what you really want out of a relationship, out of love. Like that'll be a big way of you being able to get it, right? So then if we ask yourself, who have you been asking for help with in finding long-lasting love? Has it been the right people? Have you been asking anyone at all? Because again, if you're not asking the right kinds of people, the likelihood of you getting the right kind of answer that's going to help you move forward, is very low. So you've got to think about that as well. And then I just want to share with you one more of my clients, Jay, who came to me about 12 months ago. And Jay would be what we call, successful in many areas of his life. He had a business that was going really well. He had lots of finances. Most of his relationships with his friends and family were good. But in the actual intimate relationship, had not had much luck. It had a few, relationships that always only ever went to about 9-10 months and then never would progress. And oftentimes there would be a lot of, toxicity in them. And Jay was, struggling to figure out what it was. So Jay was in a position where he was like, you know what, I need to go get some help. And he came to me in that from that place. So Jay came in, he jumped into the program, and Jay is what I would call an overachiever. He came in, he started watching like, the 70, 80 plus hours of online content and started doing the work. And started realizing, a lot of things. And he was like, I want to talk to you more and more. So he decided that he wanted to do some one-on-one sessions with me, which is fantastic because he was like, I want to do this. I want to get this sorted out really quickly. Came in, we did some of the deeper work. I did some of my more advanced NLP techniques, helped him really clear out some of the stuff that was really, not putting him in a great place to find a happy relationship. And within a month, he found someone. And again, he found someone in the most unlikely of places. So what happened was Jay was looking for something, on Facebook Marketplace and went to go and to the place to view the thing to buy, and literally got into a conversation with this person. They got into a relationship. Now, Jay told me that, if he'd gone there before, like doing some of the work that he'd done, he would have like totally not like been confident and reached out and asked him. He would have just gone there, purchased the thing and left. But because he'd done that work on himself, he felt like he knew what he was looking for, and they got into a relationship. And the fantastic thing now is that I think, Jay just messaged me the other day, and I think this month is their 1-year anniversary. So he broke his curse of getting past those 9-10 month mark and is in a healthy.
Hello and welcome back, gentlemen. I trust that you had a lot of value out of the I Am Deserving of Finding Love webinar that I held earlier in the year. So I trust you've got some great notes down. If you haven't taken notes, maybe go back and watch it again, or just whatever you've got now, scribble them down, because it's going to be important for you moving forward. If you're someone who's looking for love, who's on the journey of, self-discovery as a gay man, that you want to take forward with that as well. Now, I cut the webinar off at that point because, I was actually, at that point, I was sharing with the guys that attended an old version of my course. Now, the fantastic thing is over the last 2 months, I perfected this course and I brought it out in a brand new version. So the new version is called the 21-Day Gay Man's Guide to Love and Happiness online course. So it's a 21-day online course where you can go through at your own pace. Basically, it's 21 days worth of video lessons that you can take. With each day, you have a workbook with questions that you can ponder on and actually help yourself to understand yourself better, heal stuff from the past, but also really focus on what it is that you're truly looking for, especially when it comes to self-love, relationships, and finding happiness for yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the link below. It's www.theglobalpridecollective.com. So if you're someone who wants to check it out, you're interested in the program, or maybe finding out a bit more about what I do to help so many gay men around the world to, like I said, have more self-love, heal from the past, and ultimately find more happiness in their life, you can go check it out. So basically what's in the 21-day program, like I said, it's 21 days worth of online videos. There's a workbook with all the questions. You also get an added bonus $500 program on top of it, which will be, running in the next couple of weeks. So have a check of it out if that's suitable for you. Other than that, of course, I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your stories. So feel free to share those with me as well. And I'll be back next week with a brand new episode of the Total Boss Podcast. Bye for now.